They were the couple everyone admired, the Whitmores. Lana, a glowing soul with a passion for teaching and a smile that could light up a room. Derek, the dependable husband with a toolbox in one hand and a plan in the other. In the quiet town of Elmsburg, Maine, they were a love story people pointed to and said, "That's what I want one day." But love stories don't always have happy endings. In the summer of 2023, the couple embarked on what was supposed to be a romantic getaway to celebrate 10 years of marriage. Verona Shores, with its glassy lake and pine-lined cabins, was where they hoped to reignite the flame. Instead, it became the scene of a horrifying crime that would leave a town stunned, a courtroom shocked, and a nation questioning just how well we ever know the people we love. This is the tragic tale of Lana and Derek Whitmore, a story of secrets, betrayal, and one final vacation that ended in murder. Lana Elise Whitmore, née Green, had always believed in fairy tales. A dreamer at heart, she spent her childhood pretending to be a princess in the backyard of her family home, guided by the bedtime stories her father read to her. She carried that same magic into adulthood, choosing a life of simplicity and service as an elementary school teacher in her hometown of Elmsburg. She met Derek Whitmore at a hardware store in her early 20s. He was fixing up his first rental property, trying to turn a modest investment into a small business. She needed a new doorknob. He offered to install it. Sparks flew instantly. They married 3 years later. For a while, everything was picture perfect. Lana would post sun-drenched selfies of them on weekend getaways, holiday dinners surrounded by family, and handwritten notes from Derek tucked in her lunchbox. He'd leave comments like, "Forever my girl," or "Lucky man." To the outside world, they were living the dream. But behind closed doors, things were shifting. Lana's sister, Bianca Green, had long noticed subtle changes. Derek was no longer the doting husband he once was. Lana, once effervescent, started canceling plans, staying late at school, or claiming she was just tired. The sparkle in her eyes began to dull. In late 2022, Lana confided in Bianca. "He's different now. Cold. Distant. I don't feel like he's really here." Bianca tried to reassure her. Marriage was hard. People went through phases. But Lana wasn't convinced. Especially not when Derek began disappearing for whole weekends, claiming contractor emergencies, or last-minute site visits, that didn't add up. She began to suspect there was someone else. But every time she worked up the courage to confront him, he brushed her off. "You're being paranoid." "I'm just stressed." Still, doubt lingered like a shadow. And the more Lana tried to make things right, surprise dinners, weekend plans, heartfelt letters, the more distant Derek became. So when he agreed to a romantic weekend getaway at Verona Shores to celebrate their 10th anniversary, Lana was hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. She had no idea she was walking into a trap. From the outside, Lana and Derek Whitmore were the kind of couple that sparked envy. Their wedding photo, framed in walnut and hanging in the foyer of their suburban home in Elmsburg, showed them smiling under a cascade of rose petals, her white lace gown fluttering in the breeze, his tux jacket draped casually over one shoulder. They looked effortless, timeless, perfect. To neighbors, friends, and even their local barista at Common Grounds coffee shop, they were the Whitmores, always together at Sunday brunch, always cheering the loudest at school fundraisers, always decorating their porch for every holiday. 10 years in, they still held hands in public. Or so it seemed. Lana, a 34-year-old elementary school teacher, was the sunshine of Maplewood Elementary. Her students adored her, her colleagues trusted her, her principal praised her for creating a classroom filled with warmth, music, and routine. She made themed snacks for every holiday, remembered every child's birthday, and organized the annual book drive with a kind of joy that made people wonder if she ever had bad days. Derek, 38, was the opposite in temperament. More reserved, but undeniably charismatic, he ran Whitmore Renovations, a home improvement business he'd built from the ground up. His Instagram boasted stunning before and after shots, rustic modern kitchens, and fixer-uppers turned dream homes. His clients described him as hard-working and meticulous, if a bit distracted as of late. What no one could see was how much the foundation of their marriage had started to crack. And when Lana planned the romantic weekend to Verona Shores, it wasn't just about celebrating a milestone, it was a last-ditch effort to save a union already fraying at the seams. Lana had always believed in fixing things. It's what made her such a patient teacher. She didn't give up on students no matter how challenging. She took the same approach with Derek. But in the last year something shifted. He had become emotionally unavailable. The spontaneous weekend hikes disappeared. Their nightly dinners, once filled with laughter and shared stories, devolved into silent meals in front of the television. She started keeping journals again, something she hadn't done since college. In them, she wrote about her loneliness, her confusion, and her growing suspicion that Derek was hiding something. "He comes home late but there's no urgency to finish work," one entry read. "He used to tell me about every project. Now he changes the subject." Bianca, Lana's younger sister and closest confidant, noticed the change during their weekly FaceTime calls. Lana's smile didn't reach her eyes. Her stories were shorter, flatter. "Are you okay, Lonnie?" she asked more than once. Lana would shrug. "Just tired. Just, life." Bianca wasn't convinced. "Is it him?" But Lana would never say outright. Not yet. Not until she was sure. Derek meanwhile had secrets. A year before Verona Shores, while renovating a boutique gym in West Elmsburg, he met Roxanne Delaney. Tall, toned, and magnetic, Roxanne was everything Lana wasn't. Impulsive, bold, and unapologetically sensual. Their flirtation escalated quickly. What began as innocent banter turned into long lunch breaks, then weekend meetups, then hotel receipts buried deep in glove compartments. Derek knew it was reckless. He even tried ending it several times. But Roxanne had a way of pulling him back in. And she wanted more. "She's sweet, Derek, but she's not you," Roxanne had whispered during one of their clandestine weekends. "You deserve to live. Not just perform." But leaving Lana meant facing more than guilt. It meant facing scandal. His business, his reputation, his finances, all were tied to the image of a happily married man. What people didn't know was that Lana had helped fund the first 2 years of Whitmore renovations with a $40,000 inheritance from her late father. The business license, the tools, even the first website, all in part thanks to her. If they divorced, she could claim her share. And in a town as small as Elmsburg, whispers turned into rumors faster than paint dried. Derek felt trapped. But he was also a man who liked control. And when Lana suggested a getaway to Verona Shores to reconnect, he smiled, agreed, and began to plan. Only his version of reconnection would be far more permanent. The winding road to Verona Shores curved along Lake Eldon like a ribbon of promise. Towering pines cast long shadows as the afternoon sun danced on the hood of the Whitmore's SUV. Derek tapped the steering wheel to the beat of a song on the radio. Something upbeat, generic, forgettable. Lana, sitting beside him, snapped photos of the scenery with the same smile she'd practiced for 10 years. "Almost there," she said softly, pointing to the rustic wooden sign that read, "Welcome to Verona Shores, where time slows down." Derek only nodded. They pulled into the gravel driveway of Cabin 11, tucked away from the main cluster of lodges. It sat on the edge of the lake, private, picturesque, isolated. Just the kind of place Lana had hoped would give their marriage room to breathe again. She stepped out and inhaled deeply, arms stretched out. "Smell that? Fresh air. This place is perfect." A resort staffer wheeled their luggage toward the cabin as Derek lingered near the car, replying to a text with fingers too quick to be casual. Lana noticed but said nothing. She had promised herself, no accusations this weekend. Only peace. Inside, Cabin 11 was everything the brochure promised. Exposed beams, stone fireplace, a cozy kitchen, and an outdoor hot tub facing the lake. Lana busied herself unpacking, humming softly. She had brought candles, wine, and a small scrapbook of memories, their wedding, their first apartment, silly anniversary cards. Derek, meanwhile, made a point of checking the Wi-Fi strength. That evening, the couple took a boat out on the water. Lana wore a sundress, her hair blowing freely in the wind, laughter echoing as she tried to steer. Derek took a picture of her with the lake in the background, framing her perfectly against the horizon. She posted it later with a caption that read, 10 years today, still choosing us 2 hearts. It would be the last thing she ever posted. Dinner at the main lodge was candlelit and charming. Derek ordered steak, Lana chose the salmon. They made small talk, old friends, funny students, maybe even buying a dog. At least Lana tried. Derek seemed elsewhere. He smiled on cue, laughed at the right lines, but his eyes were always drifting. At one point, Lana reached for his hand across the table and he didn't notice. Later, back at the cabin, they opened a bottle of champagne. Lana toasted softly, "To us. To second chances." Derek clinked his glass. "To 10 years." They sat in the hot tub under the stars. Lana leaned her head against his shoulder. Derek, silent, sipped his drink and stared at the moonlit lake. It felt like the quiet before a storm. 11:27 p.m., surveillance footage. Lana exits the cabin wearing a robe, barefoot, holding her phone tightly. She walks in circles near the hot tub, whispering into the speaker. From the footage transcript. Lana, he's texting her, I saw it. He won't even deny it. Bianca, I don't know what to do. Bianca, voice on phone, sweetheart, just come home. Pack your bags. Come home. Lana, I will. First thing in the morning. I'm done. She hangs up. Her shoulders rise and fall in a deep breath. She turns and heads back inside. Back in cabin 11, Derek is sitting by the fireplace, phone in hand. He doesn't look up when she enters. Lana walks straight past him into the bedroom, closes the door softly. The camera in the living room catches it all. Tension thickens in the silence. Lana re-emerges 5 minutes later. No robe. Pajamas. No words. She pours a glass of water in the kitchen and stands with her back to him. Derek doesn't move. He just keeps scrolling. His jaw tightens. Lana speaks first. I'll leave in the morning. Derek looks up, startled or maybe caught. What are you talking about? He asks. She doesn't respond. The moment freezes here, a quiet storm building recorded by the ever-watchful camera. The clock ticked past midnight, but sleep was a distant memory in cabin 11. Outside, the gentle rustle of the trees and the lapping waves against the shore created a deceptive calm. Inside, the atmosphere was electric, thick with unspoken words, simmering anger and fragile hope. Lana sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of betrayal pressing down on her chest. Her fingers trembled as she clutched the phone, the screen dark now but burning with the proof of Derek's double life. Every message, every secret meeting revealed in harsh neon letters that shattered the life she thought she knew. Derek paced near the fireplace, the flickering flames casting long shadows that danced like ghosts on the cabin walls. His jaw clenched tightly, eyes darting with a mixture of guilt and rage. This was not the weekend of reconciliation he had imagined, it was a trap sprung by his wife, and now there was no turning back. Lana, he finally said, voice low but shaking. We can fix this. It's not what you think. She looked up, eyes burning with tears and fury. Fix it? How, Derek? After a year of lies? After all those nights you were working late? The tension cracked like thunder. And just beyond the door, the silent camera kept watching, recording every word, every glance, every moment that would soon become a chilling record of a marriage in collapse. Derek ran a hand through his hair, frustration mounting. You don't understand, Lana. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Roxanne, she's been pushing me, but I never meant to hurt you. Never meant to hurt me? Lana's voice cracked, disbelief turning to bitter anger. You were hiding her from me for months. You lied every single day. The silence that followed was suffocating. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the cabin windows as if nature itself was protesting the scene unfolding inside. Lana stood abruptly, pacing near the window. Her robe swayed as she moved, the weight of her heartbreak almost tangible. I can't do this anymore, Derek. I came here hoping we could heal. Instead, I'm just trapped with a stranger. Derek's face hardened. Don't say that. We can fix this. You and me. Together. She laughed, a sharp hollow sound that echoed through the room. Together? You're already gone, Derek. You just haven't left the house yet. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Two people caught in a painful impasse, the love they once shared now reduced to raw wounds and accusations. Then the fight ignited. The argument escalated quickly. Derek's frustration boiled over, his hands clenching into fists. You think this is easy for me? I'm stuck between losing everything and ruining the life we built. Lana's eyes flashed with defiance. You've already lost me, Derek. Maybe you just can't see it yet. Suddenly, Derek lunged toward the fireplace mantel, grabbing a decorative vase. The crash as it shattered against the stone startled them both, breaking the charged silence. Lana stumbled back, heart pounding, tears streaming down her face. Please, Derek, don't do this. But the anger in him was a tidal wave impossible to stop. The camera captured every moment, the rage, the fear, the shattering of trust. And then, in a devastating instant, the room plunged into darkness as the power was cut. The room remained engulfed in darkness, except for the faint, flickering glow of the storm outside. Silence fell, thick and suffocating, broken only by Lana's ragged breathing and the pounding of her heart. Derek's heavy footsteps shuffled across the floor, searching blindly. Lana? His voice was a mix of panic and anger. She stumbled toward the doorway, trying to find an escape. But Derek's hand grabbed her arm, gripping tightly. Don't walk away from me. Not now. Fear surged through her veins, but so did a desperate resolve. I'm done running, Derek. This ends tonight. A violent struggle ensued. Chairs scraped and furniture toppled in the chaos. The camera, now powerless, could no longer capture the horror unfolding in the shadows. When the storm outside finally quieted, the cabin lay eerily still, hiding the truth in its shadows. By morning, Verona Shores was washed clean by the rain. Sunlight stretched lazily across the lake, dew clinging to every blade of grass. Birds chirped. A breeze rustled the trees. For most visitors, the day promised coffee on porches and lazy paddles on the water. But inside Cabin 11 the air was heavy with stillness, unnatural stillness. The knock at the door came at 9:03 a.m. Resort staff had been asked by Bianca to check in after Lana failed to respond to several calls and texts. Bianca's last message, a pleading, "Are you okay?" had gone unread. When no one answered the door, a second knock followed. Still nothing. Resort manager Will Jennings used his spare key. He would later testify that what greeted him inside Cabin 11 would haunt him for years. The air was stale. Curtains still drawn. A breakfast tray untouched. One broken wine glass on the floor. And Derek, sitting on the leather armchair in sweatpants and a hoodie, coffee mug in hand, staring at the blank television screen. "Oh, morning," Derek said flatly. "She went for a walk, I think." Jennings noticed the bruising on Derek's knuckles. Then the silence behind the bedroom door. A strange, metallic scent in the air. He didn't wait. He called the police. When officers arrived 20 minutes later, they began a sweep of the property. Lana wasn't by the lake. Not at the spa. Not on any nearby trails. They returned to Cabin 11. And that's when one of them noticed the utility closet, wedged shut, a towel forced into the gap at the bottom. Inside, wrapped in 2 layers of white bedsheets and tucked beside the water heater, was Lana. Her face was pale. Her hands bruised. A thin line of dried blood at the base of her hairline. Dead for at least 7 hours. Officer Rhodes, the first responder on scene, would later describe the moment he opened the utility closet as, like something out of a nightmare, the kind you don't wake up from. Lana's body was still warm to the touch. The way she had been tucked into the corner, hidden like a discarded object, only deepened the horror. The responding officers backed out slowly, gloves now stained, radioing for backup and a crime scene unit. Derek didn't run. He didn't speak. He simply sat on the edge of the couch, sipping cold coffee, muttering something over and over. She wasn't supposed to see. He was handcuffed without resistance. Outside, rain from the previous night clung to the trees, masking the tears of those who watched Lana's lifeless body wheeled down the cabin steps. Verona Shores would never forget that morning. And neither would Elmsburg. The news of Lana Whitmore's death spread like wildfire through the town of Elmsburg. At first it was whispers. Then text messages. Then local news bulletins breaking in with tragic developments from Verona Shores. By noon the name Whitmore was trending in regional Twitter circles. And by nightfall reporters from out of town began circling like vultures. But behind the headlines and hashtags, an investigation was underway. Detective Evelyn Hart was assigned lead on the case. Known for her cool demeanor and razor-sharp instincts, she'd handled domestic violence cases before, but few as high-profile as this. And fewer with video evidence already on the table. She and her team arrived at Cabin 11 less than 24 hours after the discovery of Lana's body. What they found painted a chilling picture. The cabin itself was untouched from the time of arrest. Lana's suitcase lay open at the foot of the bed, partially unpacked. Her makeup bag still zipped. A paperback novel on the nightstand with a bookmarked page. There was no sign she had ever intended to leave early. Her phone was found in her handbag. Recent calls confirmed the 11:27 p.m. call to Bianca, a crucial timeline anchor. Derek's phone had been shattered during the altercation, but forensic recovery later revealed fragments of deleted texts with Roxanne Delaney, the mistress. Some read, "She suspects something. We need to be more careful. After this weekend I'll have answers. She's the only thing standing in the way." The camera footage retrieved from the security system, the same footage that would later play in court, showed Lana's final hours. Her pacing. Her confrontation. Her fall. Detective Hart sat in silence watching the footage, jaw clenched, knuckles pale against the remote in her hand. "I've seen homicides," she said. "But this was personal. This was someone she loved." The autopsy confirmed what the footage suggested: blunt force trauma to the back of the head. A skull fracture. Bruising consistent with being grabbed or restrained. Defensive wounds on her forearms. The timeline of death, between 2:18 and 2:22 a.m. It wasn't just a moment of passion. It was a sustained, escalating conflict. One Derek had every opportunity to de-escalate. But instead he escalated it to murder. Meanwhile, Roxanne Delaney, unaware of the tragedy unfolding, was posting morning mirror selfies to her fitness page with captions like, "New week, fresh start." She would be the next person investigators visited. Roxanne Delaney didn't cry when Detective Evelyn Hart knocked on her apartment door. She didn't ask why they were there. She just said, "You're here about Lana." That sentence alone changed the tone of the interview. They brought her in that afternoon. No handcuffs, not yet. She sat in the sterile gray interrogation room, a bottle of water in front of her, untouched. "You knew Lana Whitmore?" Detective Hart asked. Roxanne nodded. She was Derek's wife. "Were you aware they were spending the weekend together at Verona Shores?" "I was," Roxanne said, folding her arms. "He told me it was a final attempt. Closure." Detective Hart raised an eyebrow. Closure for who? Silence. The evidence by then had begun to mount. Deleted texts. Recovered voicemails. Even a damning note scribbled by Lana in her journal, found inside her suitcase. "I think he wants to make me disappear. He keeps saying no one would believe me. But someone has to. Someone will." That page alone was enough to shake even the coldest observer. "Were you in contact with Derek that night?" the detective pressed. Roxanne hesitated. "I didn't hurt her," she finally said. "I told him if he wanted a clean start he had to end things, but not like this. Not like this." Her voice cracked then for the first time. Later, investigators would find that Roxanne had tried to call Derek at 3:04 a.m., less than 45 minutes after Lana's death. The call lasted 21 seconds. No one answered. By the end of the week, Elmsburg wasn't whispering anymore. People chose sides. Some believed Derek was innocent, a man caught in a tragic accident. Others, mostly women who had once admired Lana's strength, were calling for his conviction. Murals began to appear. One near the train station, Lana's silhouette with the words, "Believe her." A candlelight vigil outside Whitmore Publishing drew nearly 400 people. Former interns, friends, distant cousins. Even those who had never met her came, because the story had become more than just hers. It had become theirs. A collective ache. A shared rage. And a warning. At the vigil, Bianca read aloud from Lana's last published column. A haunting piece titled, "The Things We Don't Say." "Silence is a prison for the truth. We think by staying quiet we're protecting someone, sometimes ourselves. But silence isn't safety. It's surrender." The crowd stood motionless. Even the wind paused. By the end of that week, Verona Shores was no longer just a luxury resort. It was the scene of a nightmare. The media descended like crows. Reporters from True North Daily, Crime Watch Now, and even a camera crew from a major network arrived in Elmsburg within days. The story had everything the headlines loved. A beautiful victim. A cheating husband. A lakeside cabin. A crime caught on camera. Tabloids plastered Lana's smiling face next to Derek's mugshot. From Anniversary to Annihilation, blared one headline. "Love Kills, The Cabin 11 Mystery," read another. Even the more respectful outlets couldn't resist the narrative arc. A marriage on the rocks. A secret lover. A weekend getaway that ended in bloodshed. For Bianca it was unbearable. She stopped watching the news. Stopped answering her phone. Even stopped going into the kitchen where the fridge still held the grocery list Lana had handwritten weeks ago. Almond milk, blueberries, Derek's oat bars. She couldn't stand the way her sister's death had become content. 3 days after the autopsy confirmed the cause of death, blunt force trauma followed by possible asphyxiation, the state filed formal charges against Derek Whitmore. Second-degree murder. Tampering with evidence. Obstruction of justice. Bail was denied. In court, Derek appeared gaunt. Hollow-eyed. His usual confidence reduced to robotic nods. He was represented by Victor Mendez, a high-profile defense attorney who made a name for himself defending white-collar criminals and celebrities caught in scandals. This was not premeditated, Mendez argued at the bail hearing. It was a tragic accident. Passion, not planning. But prosecutors disagreed, and they had the timeline to prove it. Lana's injuries showed she was attacked from behind. Derek's browser history, deleted then recovered, included searches for, "What happens if you hit your head on stone?" and "untraceable poisons." And the surveillance footage told its own damning story. The judge was swift, remanded into custody. No bail. By now the people of Elmsburg had drawn battle lines. Some, mostly longtime clients of Derek's renovation business, insisted he was being framed. Others were louder. Justice for Lana rallies sprang up in parks and parking lots. Local cafes offered Lana's latte, donating proceeds to a women's shelter. But Bianca didn't attend the rallies. She was focused on something else, something private. She had found Lana's journal. And buried in its final pages were strange sketches. Arrows pointing to dates. A symbol she didn't recognize. And one chilling line. If anything happens to me, check the blue box in the attic. Bianca hadn't gone into Lana's attic yet. But she would. And what she'd find there would burn the foundation of everything, again. The attic was dusty and cramped, the kind of space that felt too quiet even with the wind tapping gently on the roof. Bianca stood at the top of the wooden ladder, flashlight in one hand, Lana's journal clutched in the other. Check the blue box. She found it tucked behind an old suitcase and a crate of baby clothes neither of them had had the heart to throw away. The box was smaller than she expected. More like a document case. Plastic. Faded sky blue. Duct tape sealed its edges like someone wanted it forgotten or protected. Bianca peeled back the tape with shaking hands. Inside were papers. Dozens of them. Some were printed emails. Others were handwritten notes. Torn pages, margins filled with frantic scribbles. Bank statements. Appointment reminders. And photographs. She pulled them out one by one. There was a photo of Derek, not with Lana, but with a woman Bianca didn't recognize. Blonde, elegant, maybe in her early 40s. The picture looked recent. On the back Lana had written a name. Celine. Ask her everything. Next was a printout of an online forum post from nearly a year ago titled, When Your Partner is Hiding a Second Life. Lana had highlighted a reply in yellow. If you find multiple SIM cards or long disappearances, trust your instincts. They don't start lying overnight. Then came a timeline Lana had sketched out herself. March 10th. Derek disappears for 36 hours. Says it was a work retreat. April 2nd. Finds strange receipt, jewelry store $1,800. May 5th. Saw him near Ridgeway with her. Denied it. June 18th. Found second phone. He begged. I didn't delete. Bianca's breath caught. She reached for the final envelope, labeled in Lana's neat script. In case I don't make it. Inside the envelope was a USB drive and a note. Bianca, if you're reading this, I was right. He's not who he says he is. This goes deeper than you think. And if he knows I found out, he won't stop. Start with the drive. Then find Celine. I love you. Don't let this die with me. Lana. Bianca felt something shift inside her. The pain gave way to fury. Derek wasn't just guilty. He was dangerous. And Lana had known. She'd been preparing for this for months. Quietly. Alone. Bianca closed the box, clutching it to her chest. She wasn't just grieving anymore. She was hunting. Bianca had never done this before, hunting down someone from a handwritten note, a photograph, and a name. But she wasn't the same woman who collapsed into her couch 2 weeks ago, sobbing over her sister's funeral program. No. That version of her was buried with Lana. This Bianca wanted answers. She started with the basics. Lana had scribbled the name Celine on the back of the photo. No surname, no address, nothing else. But the background of the picture showed something familiar. A brick cafe front with a distinct sign partially visible. Bloom Art and Brew. Bianca searched it online. Bloom Art and Brew, a cozy coffee shop and gallery just outside Elmsburg, about 45 minutes north. Local, quiet, artsy. The kind of place Lana would have noticed. And maybe, the kind of place Derek visited when he thought no one was watching. Bianca drove there the next morning. Bloom was small but charming. Exposed brick, mismatched mugs, indie music humming through the speakers. A few artists were sketching quietly in a corner. Behind the counter stood a tall woman with soft blonde waves and tired eyes. Mid-40s. Polished. Familiar. Bianca's stomach flipped. It was her. She walked to the counter. The woman smiled politely. What can I get you? Bianca didn't answer right away. She reached into her bag and placed the photograph on the counter, the one of her and Derek. The woman's smile faltered. Her hand twitched slightly. Where did you get this? My sister, Bianca said flatly. Lana Whitmore. Derek's wife. Silence. Then Celine quietly walked around the counter, flipped the open sign to closed, and locked the door. They sat across from each other at a back table, untouched coffee growing cold between them. Celine's voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't know he was still married. Not at first. Bianca said nothing. He told me they were separated. That she had moved out. I only found out the truth when she came here one day. Quietly. Us to talk. No drama. Just questions. Celine looked down. She was kind. Too kind. Bianca remembered the way Lana handled conflict. Always composed, almost heartbreakingly gentle. It was so like her to seek out the other woman without blame. Celine continued, I ended it the same day. But Derek didn't take it well. He started showing up here. Angry. Saying Lana was poisoning everyone against him. That he'd lost everything. Bianca leaned forward. Did he ever threaten Lana? Celine hesitated. Then, he said, if she didn't let go of the past he would. Bianca pressed harder. Do you know anything about a second phone? Or another woman named Roxanne? Celine blinked. Roxanne? No. But, I found a phone once. In his truck's glove compartment. He said it was for business. But I saw messages, none from me. Names I didn't recognize. I confronted him and he called me paranoid. Said he didn't like being accused of things he hadn't done. Bianca's heart sank. It wasn't just one affair. It was layers. Masked. A man who lived in deception. Before she left, Celine handed Bianca a slip of paper. There's something else. A friend of mine works at a private clinic near Rockwell. She said Derek came in months ago, under a fake name. I don't know why. But maybe your USB will make more sense after that. Bianca thanked her and stepped outside into the cool afternoon light. The wind had picked up. Clouds rolled in across the sky like something unspoken was approaching. There were more secrets to uncover. And tomorrow she would open the USB drive. Bianca stared at the USB drive like it might burn her fingers. It was small, silver, and unassuming, a fragile vessel for what might shatter her reality. She was back in her apartment, blinds drawn, phone on silent, laptop humming softly. On the table sat everything she had gathered. The photographs, the journal entries, the napkin with coordinates Lana had once scrawled half-drunk after a phone call she wouldn't explain. Now this, the flash drive Lana had hidden in a false bottom of her jewelry box. Bianca plugged it in. It opened immediately, a folder titled Truth_Insurance. Inside were videos, audio recordings, screenshots of texts, notes, receipts. Her chest tightened. The first video showed Lana in her kitchen, speaking directly into the camera. Her voice was calm, but her eyes flicked nervously toward the hallway. If you're watching this, something's happened to me. And I don't want you to go to the police, not yet. I need you to listen to everything first. Derek isn't who you think he is. He never was. Bianca froze. Another video. A security cam recording, dated 3 months before Lana's death. Derek pacing in a hotel parking lot, arguing with someone off camera. Then another figure stepped into view, Roxanne. Blonde, heavily made up, laughing bitterly. The audio was distorted, but Bianca could make out a few chilling words. Roxanne, she knows Derek. She's not stupid. Derek, then she's made her choice. Roxanne, you wouldn't actually? Derek, I don't lose. Ever. The video cut out. Bianca clicked the next one, hands trembling. Screenshots. A text exchange between Derek and someone saved as R. Derek, I need this done by next week. She's starting to snoop. R. Consider it handled. Same rate. Below it, a scanned bank statement. $15,000 transferred from Derek's account to a shell company named Orion Limited. A quick search showed the company didn't exist publicly. Bianca added it to the growing list of people she'd have to track down. There was also a folder titled Clinic Visit, and there a scanned intake form from a wellness center in Rockwell. Derek's signature. Different name. Same birth date. Under Reason for Visit, someone had handwritten. Injections. Weekly. No paper trail. Bianca didn't know what it meant yet. Steroids? Hormones? Something darker? But it proved Derek was hiding more than affairs. Lana's digital voice played again, soft, afraid. He's not just angry anymore. He's methodical. If anything happens, Bianca, promise me you'll go to the place. The one we talked about. You'll find more. I couldn't bring it here, he watches everything. Bianca knew the place. An abandoned cabin Lana used to visit as a retreat. It belonged to their grandfather before he died, deep in the woods outside Rosedale. No phone signal. No visitors. Safe. At least it had been. Bianca copied the entire USB to her cloud just in case. Then she picked up her keys, grabbed a flashlight, and whispered a promise into the room. I'm going to finish this for you. The road to the cabin was narrow and half-eaten by time. Trees hunched over like sentinels, their branches clawing at the windshield as Bianca drove deeper into Rosedale's forgotten outskirts. The farther she went, the more silence pressed in, thick, ancient, watchful. She parked just before the clearing and approached on foot. The cabin stood where memory left it, leaning slightly, moss-covered and somehow still waiting. Bianca's boots crunched over dead leaves. She paused at the door, heart racing, then turned the old key Lana once gave her. The door creaked open like a groan. Inside, dust floated like ghosts. But everything else, untouched. And then she saw it. Beneath a loose floorboard in the bedroom, exactly where Lana had once joked she'd stash all her secrets if she ever needed to disappear, was a black duffel bag. Inside, a burner phone. A notebook filled with messy handwriting, names, dates, amounts. A second USB drive. And a vial. Small. Labeled with numbers, no name. Bianca stared at it. The same numbering format she'd seen in the scan clinic form. A cold realization crept over her. This wasn't just a murder mystery. This was medical. Experimental. Dangerous. She powered on the burner phone. One text sat in the inbox. Meet me at the safe house. If I'm not there by midnight, burn it all. E. Back in her apartment, Bianca loaded the second USB. It contained one voice note. Lana again, but this time her voice was different. Resigned. Bro. If I disappear, it's because I knew too much. About the clinic. About Derek. About what they gave him. I thought it was just illegal treatments, something to keep him looking younger or stronger. But it wasn't that. It was behavioral. They changed something in him. Suppressed empathy. Boosted aggression. I read the notes, B. It was intentional. Tested. Paid for. Bianca covered her mouth. The breath caught in her throat. He didn't just change. He was changed. I was going to expose it. That's why I'm gone. Bianca looked again at the vial. And the names in the notebook. They weren't random. Politicians. Executives. Athletes. All treated at the same off-grid clinic. All with sudden surges in performance, power, or rage. This wasn't about jealousy. Or infidelity. This was about control. Bianca took photos of every page. Every label. Every vial. And then she poured gasoline across the cabin floor. Struck a match. Watched it burn. Not because she was afraid. Because Lana told her to. And because if she didn't, someone else might. Bianca had never believed in paranoia, until it started following her. It began subtly. A gray sedan parked outside her apartment 2 mornings in a row. The driver always reading a newspaper. Too still. Too neat. When she walked to the market, she saw the same man who had been in front of her at the gas station the night before. What? Coincidence? Twice. Maybe. But 3 times, and her instincts screamed louder than reason. She stopped telling people where she was going. She disabled location sharing on her phone. But still, there were signs, muffled clicks on her landline, her laptop taking longer to boot up, the soft buzz of interference when she answered calls. Even Celine noticed. You're being watched, B. I know the look. I had it too. Before they erased everything. Celine's voice cracked over the burner phone. Bianca had taken to calling her from random cafes, her phone wrapped in aluminum foil, Celine's paranoid DIY attempt to block any backdoor signals. It probably did nothing, but Bianca found comfort in the ritual. What do they want? Bianca whispered. They want you quiet. Celine had sent her a thumb drive with encrypted files. It came tucked inside a library book she'd never ordered, the picture of Dorian Gray. On it were documents from the research clinic where Derek had been involved. Subject rosters, dosage records, notes marked with disturbing phrases like cognitive flexibility thresholds and violent rejection phase. Bianca hadn't yet opened everything. She was afraid of what she'd find. That fear intensified when she returned to her apartment one evening to find her door ajar. Nothing was stolen. But her notes had been shuffled. Her fridge door, usually stuck tight, swung easily. And someone had left the kettle on, full but not boiling. It was a warning. She didn't sleep that night. Instead she drove. Across state lines to a friend's cottage in Ash Hollow. No cell service, no neighbors, just trees and the sound of her own breath. It was the only place she felt safe enough to read the full contents of the thumb drive. And what she found twisted her stomach. Trial records redacted. Patient file #442D, Whitmore, Derek. Subject was administered compound X9, originally developed to aid in PTSD symptom reduction. Results showed signs of dependency, severe aggression, and dissociation. Episode on day 164 resulted in violent outburst against lab technician. Subject claimed no memory of the event. Recommended for removal from trial. But he wasn't removed. He was fast-tracked. shifted from the trial into Phase 2, domestic environment monitoring. Bianca stared at the screen. Derek had been placed back into society as a test case, a walking chemical experiment, and Lana had been his unwitting control group. She closed the laptop. Her hands trembled. Outside the cottage, an owl hooted. She wasn't paranoid. She was prey. As the courtroom filled with the low murmur of anticipation, all eyes were on Derek Whitmore. The man once seen as a pillar of the community now sat in chains, his fate hanging in the balance. The prosecution was prepared to paint a vivid picture of betrayal, deceit, and fatal consequences, while the defense sought to sow doubt and plead for mercy. The judge called the court to order, and the trial officially commenced. Opening statements set the tone. The prosecution detailed the events leading to Lana's death, highlighting the damning video evidence. They emphasized Derek's affair, the financial and emotional motives, and the brutal nature of the crime. The defense countered with a story of a man pushed to the edge, overwhelmed by stress and mental breakdown. Their claim: Derek blacked out in a moment of temporary insanity. Witness testimonies began with Bianca Whitmore, Lana's sister, delivering a heart-wrenching account of Lana's fears and the last phone call she made. Throughout the trial, the emotional toll was palpable, not just for the families involved but for everyone who watched the proceedings unfold in real time. After days of gripping testimonies, heated arguments, and chilling video evidence, the trial reached its climax. The jury, tasked with weighing every piece of evidence, retreated for deliberation. The courtroom remained tense, the silence almost deafening as everyone awaited the final decision. Hours later, the jury returned. The foreperson stood, delivering the verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. A wave of emotion rippled through the courtroom: shock, grief, relief. Derek Whitmore was sentenced to 37 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, eager to capture the reaction of Lana's family and friends. Bianca, though devastated, expressed hope that Lana's tragic story would serve as a warning and inspire change. In the weeks that followed, the community of Elmsburg grappled with the fallout, the quiet town forever marked by a crime that revealed the darkness lurking behind a seemingly perfect marriage. The verdict brought a bittersweet closure to the trial, but for the town of Elmsburg, the healing process was only just beginning. Lana Whitmore was mourned not just as a victim of a brutal crime, but as a symbol of the hidden struggles many faced behind closed doors. Local gatherings and vigils filled the calendar as friends, neighbors, and even strangers came together to remember Lana's kindness, her warmth, and the life that was cruelly cut short. Schools where she taught held moments of silence, and her students created art projects celebrating her memory. Amidst the grief, Lana's family took an extraordinary step. They launched the Lana Project, a foundation dedicated to raising awareness about emotional abuse, manipulation, and domestic violence. The goal was clear: to educate women and communities on recognizing early warning signs, to empower victims, and to provide resources for those trapped in toxic relationships. The foundation's outreach extended beyond Elmsburg, sparking national conversations on the subtle forms of abuse that often go unnoticed until it's too late. Lana's story became a catalyst for change, a tragic lesson with a powerful legacy. In the months following the trial, Lana Whitmore's story captured the nation's attention. News outlets covered the case extensively, not only for its shocking crime but also for the deeper issues it highlighted: emotional abuse, betrayal, and the dangers of silence. The media portrayed Lana not just as a victim, but as a beacon for awareness. Interviews with her sister Bianca, close friends, and experts on domestic violence helped educate viewers and readers. The public's reaction was a mixture of outrage, sorrow, and a growing determination to break the cycle of abuse. The pinnacle of this media coverage came with the release of the documentary titled Cabin 11, The Lana Whitmore Story. The film featured raw footage from the trial, candid interviews with those who knew Lana, and expert commentary on the signs of toxic relationships. One of the most haunting moments in the documentary was Lana's final Instagram post, "Frozen in Time, a digital echo of love that had turned fatal." The film didn't shy away from the grim reality but balanced it with hope, spotlighting the Lana Project and the women it helped. The documentary further amplified Lana's legacy, inspiring conversations nationwide about how to support victims and prevent such tragedies from repeating. Lana Whitmore's story, while tragic, has left an indelible mark on society. It serves as a powerful reminder that beneath the surface of even the most perfect-looking relationships, pain and danger can lurk. The case sparked widespread discussions on emotional abuse, a form of violence often overshadowed by physical harm but equally destructive. Experts emphasize the importance of recognizing early warning signs like isolation, manipulation, and sudden changes in behavior. The Whitmore tragedy highlighted how critical it is to listen to victims' fears and take their concerns seriously. The launch of the Lana Project created a support system for women struggling in toxic relationships. Through education, counseling, and community outreach, it aims to empower women to reclaim control over their lives before it's too late. On a broader scale, Lana's story encouraged society to break the stigma surrounding domestic abuse and infidelity. It called for open conversations about mental health, accountability, and the complexity of human relationships. Though Derek Whitmore's actions ended a life, Lana's memory sparked a movement, one that continues to save lives and offer hope to those trapped in silence. In the end, this story reminds us, appearances can be deceiving, love can be complicated, and sometimes the greatest courage is found in speaking out and seeking help. If you or someone you know is experiencing emotional or physical abuse, remember, you are not alone. Reach out. Speak up. There is help, support, and hope available. Don't wait for silence to turn deadly. Recognize the signs, trust your instincts, and take action before it's too late. Together we can break the cycle of abuse, protect the vulnerable, and create a world where every story ends in safety, healing, and justice. If Lana's story has moved you, share it. Raise awareness. Be the voice for those who cannot speak. Because every life matters, and no one should suffer in silence.